Never a doubt the Eagles cruise to an easy victory. It's 28-23. They're 6-2. Just your run-of-the-mill, average, dominating performance over a lesser opponent.
Well, they outgained them by 232 yards. So that's dominating. Yeah, I mean, they built a 22-point lead and then just kind of waited until the clock said zeros and somehow had more points than the Jaguars. But that was hairy there. Got a little crazy.
Yeah, that was way too close for comfort. This is the Eagle Eye podcast presented by Nissan. He's Reuben Frank. I'm Dave Zangaro. Yeah, I mean, for most of this game, you thought, okay, easy win. They're dominating on both sides of the football. We're going to see some Kenny Pickett. I thought we're going to see some Kenny Pickett in this game.
Yeah, I thought we might see some Don McPherson. Yeah, I mean, it looked like it was going to be another 20-point blowout, third in a row. I was doing stats on last time they won 3 straight games by 20 points and all these kind of things. Last time they allowed fewer than 50 yards in a game. Like, it was so thorough. But, you know, they a combination of things let the Jaguars back into it. I thought, obviously, some missteps on their part, some wackiness from Nick, and some really bad calls by the refs.
Mm-hmm.
But we never talk about the refs on this podcast. I never.
It was a weird game for the refs. Yeah,
it was, and for the replay refs as well. But you know, they looked all that stuff in the eye and they found a way, and you give them credit for that. But you can't. I mean, you got to learn how to finish off a team.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you give them credit for winning it, but it felt like just a few spectacular plays from big players won this game, and that's fine. But like, that's not sustainable. That can't be what they put out there against this really bad Jaguars team.
Yeah. And look, they you know, the last 2 weeks they were able to, you know, really put teams away and finish them off and get the backups in there. It's just not going to be that way all the time. I mean, they brought some of this on themselves. But you know, that saying, they're all line drives in the box score. I mean, they're all, people are going to look at the standings and see 6-2. They're not going to see, well, Saquon fumbled, Nick called this, Nick called that, Nick called this, Nick called this, Nick called that. The refs blew that. They're just going to see 6-2 football team.
Okay. Yeah. And last year they would have looked and saw a 10-1 football team.
Well, last year, yeah.
Yeah,
but
that's what I'm saying. It's like not all wins are created equal here.
No, I understand that, but I think this team's already won games in a fashion that last year's team never did.
Okay.
And I also just think they're younger, so there's hope. There's like last year's team had no, I mean, especially on the defense. I mean, we knew the issues. We've learned the issues on offense, and they were just an old defense that wasn't going to be able to maintain that level of play. So I don't think this team is going to collapse like last year.
Oh, neither do I. I'm just saying that's like looking at the record doesn't always tell the full story.
No, that's true. That's true. But I think 10-1 turned into 11-6 for reasons that won't really affect this team.
Yeah, no, and I'm not saying it will.
Okay.
I'm not comparing them to last year's team, other than to say sometimes the record is a little deceiving at times.
But for other teams as well.
Sure. Yeah. I'm just going to the most recent example we had from last year.
Yeah.
That's the case.
Okay.
They go up 22-0. You're thinking, okay, it's 22-0 with about 9.5 minutes left in the third quarter. So a lot of time, but nothing. The Jaguars had 1 first down at that point. And then they get that drive going and they get points on the board. They get a 2-point conversion. It's 22-8. You're thinking, okay, that's not great, but Eagles are still in a great position.
I'm thinking they weren't going to shut them out. They'll go down and score.
Exactly. Here. And they start the next drive, and then immediately that weird Saquon play. I thought he should have been down by contact. 51 touched him. I know that Zach Berman, who is the pool reporter, did speak with the head referee. So waiting to get that pool report in. I already know what it's going to say, right? Like it's going to say he wasn't down by contact, but I think that's the wrong call. And I was glad to hear that the replay rules analyst on the broadcast had some guts to him and went against the call on the field, which doesn't happen often.
Rarely do. Those are their pals. I thought it was pretty clear that We were in the studio. I thought it was pretty clear that 51. I keep forgetting.
This is perfect time, actually. The pool report is in.
What do you got?
Just got emailed to us. Mark Butterworth. This is the question from Zach, who is the pool reporter. Why did you determine that the on-field ruling of a fumble was in fact a fumble? 1st and 10 at the Philadelphia 30, 5:26 remaining in the third quarter. Butterworth, on that play, the running back was touched by defensive player number 51, and then he did have contact with number 69 on the offense. It was deemed a stumble on the field, so because it was a stumble when he went down, he would not be down by contact, and therefore it was a fumble. Question, so what would have qualified as down by contact when number 51 touched him there? Butterworth, if no other player hit him and they ruled it not a stumble and he went down after contact by number 51 of the defense with no other contact and he went down and he went immediately down, then he would have been down by contact.
That is BS.
So they're saying he went down because he tripped over Landon Dickerson's leg.
But he was already on the way down.
I mean, and that's where there's some weird gray area here, and that was the call. The Nick Sirianni said they're going to try to get some clarification from the league on that one. Saquon, I talked to him after the game. He said he knew once they ruled it a fumble, he said they weren't going to overturn it.
Sure.
He said he's had like one like that before.
He's only fumbled 7 times in his life. Did I jinx him? I mean, I wrote about his fumbling, how he never fumbles in my observations yesterday. He's only lost 3 in something like 1,700 career touches coming into this game. He's not a fumbler. He never has been. One of them was on a long catch at the end of a long catch.
Weird play, and then you see why these guys are on offense and not defense because they could not tackle. It's a touchdown, and all of a sudden, it's 22-16.
The defense was glad they didn't tackle like at the 3, and they get the points against their record. This way they don't. But it was terrible effort, tackling effort. But I mean, that 22-0 lead became 22-16 so fast.
Yeah.
I don't know what it was like under a minute. It's tough to deal with. You just get punched in the face twice in a row like that. I mean, that's tough to bounce back from.
Yeah. And the next drive, they end up with that 4th and 1, and they don't run the tush push. It had been stopped before. They run a different play, and it was ugly.
Different play.
Yeah, it was a different play. It was certainly a different play. But then, so it was
about the last play you would run on. It wasn't 4th and 1. I mean, it was 4th and like
inches,
4 inches.
Yeah. I
mean, Jalen could fall down and get it. I know they had stopped the tush push. You can't just stop doing it.
Mm-hmm.
Plus, there's other plays, other short yardage plays that don't involve Jalen dropping back 45 yards. That whole thing was just a disaster. And if you're going to throw in that situation, we've seen them convert 4th and short, throwing it. It's got to be something quick. Drop back.
Yeah, not such a long developing play.
Exactly. Drop back and dump it to Saquon or Calcaterra or Gainwell and you need 4 inches. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was.
So they get that turnover run down. So then the defense.
I'm not done yet. All right.
Gets a stop. And then the offense does put a drive together. Devontae Smith just comes through huge in that moment. With no A.J. Brown, we'll talk about the injuries in this game a little bit later, but he's out at this point. You're down the Devontae, and man, he came up big.
I think the thing that impressed me the most was, I mean, the catch itself was insane. I mean, it was insane. I don't know. And guys didn't even try to make that play till Odell Beckham came along, and he would do them in practice and everything. I don't think guys really made one-handed catches. I think he invented that. Maybe guys did it before him, but
I don't think Odell Beckham invented the one-handed
I think he invented it. But he kind of he put it on the map. He made it a thing where it's like a play that guys practice. I mean, you always see guys practicing out on the sideline. That's an impossible play just in the schoolyard, just goofing around with your friends, but then to somehow get his feet in bounds, get that second feet. I mean, he was right in the back of the end zone. So he's like almost like horizontal, and he's got the ball in one hand, and he said, what did he say? He makes his legs go dead. Did you hear that?
I didn't know.
He said that's the only way he can get his feet in bounds is if he makes his legs dead, which I thought was a fascinating way to put it.
Yeah.
Makes his legs dead.
I kind of get that.
Yeah. And I mean, if he doesn't catch that ball, I think they lose the game. And
even with it, they were pretty darn close.
They sure were. It was one of the best catches I've ever seen. All things considered.
I mean, this is a funny game because there were 3 plays that like we'll remember for a long time from this game.
Yeah.
And even before that, Devontae had the long 46-yard catch on a rope from Jalen Hurst. So 2 big plays from Devontae there. But then Jacksonville drives back down the field again, gets a touchdown, gets within 5 points. It's 28-23. You're going, uh-oh, this is a disaster. And then sure enough, Saquon Barkley on second down, he has the first down. If he wants it, he slides short of the sticks.
Are you sure he would have had the first down?
He would have had it.
It was tough for me to tell.
I think he would have had it. You at least got to go for it.
Did you ask him what he was doing?
Yeah, I did ask him what he was doing. He said he wasn't as worried about the time as he was controlling the football there. He didn't want to fumble. So that's why he went down.
You can't play scared.
Yeah, you got to get the first down there. The first down is huge. And then before they had the false start from Lane, that backs them up. But then you're almost out of it. Saquon get the first down and he doesn't. Then you have to try a 57-yard field goal for cold Jake Elliott.
Yeah. Hit the right upright. I mean, he can make that, but.
And then Jags start to move it down the field, and Nakobe Dean calls game. That was a big play by him.
It was huge. And both linebackers were incredible today, both off balls. And Nakobe's first interception, and I mean, he's just been playing better and better. And to hear him talk, were you in that group of people talking to Nakobe today?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean, preparation. I mean, he's on about a play that Gainwell caught on him on the same play.
Yeah, and that was at the link. That was during the open practice.
It was during the open practice, but that was just the product of so much hard work and preparation. Nakobe knew what the play was, and it was a really athletic play that he made.
He high-pointed the football.
He sure did.
He looked like a receiver on that play. He lost him.
I mean, he's come so far. You know, the way the season started, I wasn't sure he'd still be out there at this point. But, you know, maybe I didn't give him enough credit for he was still new at the position. I mean, he started 5 games last year. He was hurt most of the year. He didn't play as a rookie, so it's still new to him. And he's in a new system. He's with his 4th defensive coordinator in 3 years. Can't forget Coach Matty, Dave.
Still available.
Yeah, I think he's one of the really most qualified.
Yeah. You wait until you, like, at this point in the season, you just wait until you get to the playoffs, and then you see if he can come on.
Well, from what I hear, he's still kind of sifting through offers.
Okay.
You know, OC, DC.
He can do it all.
He can do everything. What were we talking about? Oh, Nakobe. Yeah, I just think he's come so far, and he's got, you know, I think a lot of guys would have gotten down on themselves. I mean, he didn't play as a rookie. He was running with the second team all throughout the summer behind a guy they cut. And he's a really positive kid. You've talked to him enough to know. He's got a great attitude and a great mindset. He's always positive, and it really paid off. That was a big time play. Yeah,
for him and Zach Bond to have interceptions in this game. Pretty cool. He said last week Zach Bond punched out that ball excuse me, late in the other game, and Nakobe recovered it. They decided they're going to keep all those takeaway footballs in the linebacker room.
Yeah, good thing you read my story where I wrote about that the other day. Yeah.
Well, I did read about it, but I'm trying to fill you in on what he said after the game today.
I heard, and it's really cool. They're so close. I did write a story about Nakobe and Zach on Thursday, maybe last week, Friday, and Zach Bond told me that the first day in the building, the first guy he met was Nakobe Dean. And Nakobe said, let's get to work. And they've been best friends ever since. And it's really cool. And they both said that their closeness off the field really helps them on the field. And they've got great chemistry. They watch film together. Zach told me, if you see Nakobe, you're pretty likely to see me too. It's a really cool story. And Zach Bond's never played the position either. I mean, they're both new at this. They're both getting better.
I mean, by comparison, Nakobe has way more experience playing inside linebacker.
Yeah. Zach Bond was incredible today.
He played a great game. And that was the cool thing. Nakobe, like, he had a relatively quiet game, honestly.
Yeah.
He made the big play at the end. So I think he felt, in a way, like a little uncomfortable being the guy singled out for making the game-winning plays. So he started going through, like, well, Zach Bond, like, all these other guys had really big games. I think he felt like a little uncomfortable being the guy at the podium after that game.
Yeah, I think that's the mindset he has. He really is. I mean, you hear Nick talk all the time about this guy's a team guy. That guy's ultimate team sport. Nakobe really, it's genuine. That's coming from a real place.
Yeah. You mentioned Nick. Let's talk about
I was
Nick.
hoping you didn't hear that.
Yeah, because I mean, I think after any game, especially a win, the best case scenario is we don't have a long conversation about the head coach, right? Like, I think that should be the goal. Is like Nick Sirianni doesn't do anything weird. They coach fine. They win the game, not in spite of coaching, but maybe because of it, or it's a nothingness, right? There's zero.
It's like umpire. They say if you never mention the umpire, you know he had a good
exactly.
game.
Yeah. We got to mention Nick Sirianni a little bit, and I think like there are different levels of questioning all these different calls, but when you leave points out there and it doesn't work in a game that ends up being really close, I think you're going to get questioned.
Yeah.
So let's go through.
Where do you want to start?
Yeah. Okay. So I've already been accosted by fans outside as I walk back here. Like, what did you think about Nick leaving points off on the board? And he did. So in the second quarter, 4:55 left. They went for it on 4th and 3. They did not convert from the Jacksonville 22-yard line. 3 points, right?
Yeah.
Third quarter, 1:25 left on the Jacksonville 25, 4th and 1. That was where they probably should have pushed it. They didn't. Another 3 points.
You could ear push it and get the first down.
And then the 2-point conversions. The last one was the right call.
Exactly.
Like mathematically the right call. At that point, every fan in the stadium was tired of it, so they booed it. But mathematically, that's the right call.
The early ones are the ones that get me because now you're chasing points. Now you're like, well, we can make up for it if we go for it again. Yeah.
Typically,
just get the point.
I don't mind that. I think game situation and opponent have to play a role.
Exactly.
Yeah. And you're playing an inferior team. You know, if you just kick those field goals,
just get points.
Like they're probably not going to be able to catch up.
Yeah.
To his credit, like this is what he does, his aggressiveness. And I think it's not just him. I think it's by design from the franchise. He's trying to do what the organization wants in terms of aggressiveness. But at times you have to take into account the opponent. And it felt like this wasn't that day.
Yeah, I agree. I totally agree. And the Jaguars are not a good team, and those failed. I thought there was a series of plays that gave the Jaguars confidence that they didn't,
it gives them some life,
gave them hope. And the missed PAT, the missed 2-point conversions, the fumble, all those things kind of, I mean, they started playing like they started thinking we have a chance to win this game, which they didn't. The Eagles gave them that, and the refs a little bit, and they gave them that. And I don't count the third 2-point conversion because, like you said, that was the right call there. But first two and that, the 4th and inches. What would you have done in that?
The third one would have put them up 14 points.
Yeah,
if they got it.
The third, the Jake Elliott 57-yard field goal. That situation. What would you have done? What do you think is the right call there?
On the 4th down?
Yeah,
I would have kicked the field goal in that situation, but I think everything leading up to that was kind of a disaster.
True.
In terms of management.
Yeah.
You have Jake Elliott. I think I'd trust him there, but you shouldn't be in that situation.
Sure. But when you get there.
Yeah. I thought that was the less egregious part of that whole sequence.
I might have gone for it.
Okay. Yeah. And I understand that. I think earlier in the game, I would have kicked at least one of those field goals.
Yeah.
The one in the second quarter, I would have.
Yeah.
Now the 4th and 1, I'm fine going for it, but the play call was
right
wacky.
Yeah. Yeah.
But that first one, a 4th and 3, you're already like, this is going fine. You have a lead. Take the 3 points.
Got greedy.
Yeah. And I understand that this is what they do, and over the course of a season, maybe it is the right way. And I understand to a certain extent, the analytics say to go for it. You're only getting the positives from analytics if you do it all the time. Like when Nick says he picks and chooses. So I realize I'm being a little hypocritical here because when Nick says he picks and chooses with the analytics, that's not how the analytics are designed to work. The reason they work is that you do it over and over a long period of time, and it gives you the most points and the better chance to win. But if you are going to pick and choose, today was the day to do it.
Yeah. Yep. What do you think? What was his worst decision? What bothered you the most?
Well, I think the worst coaching decision was the play call on 4th and 1.
Agree.
I don't know if we put that on him.
Yeah.
I don't know, but like it's just like in terms of coaching decisions, that one. Yeah, and then I kind of get, annoyed by the always trying to steal points on a 2-point conversion against a team that's not as good as you.
Right. Yep.
You don't need all of it.
Right. They got a much more comfortable lead.
Yeah. Anything else?
That's a lot
on Nick's decision making in this game.
It was a series of things that just didn't really add up.
Yeah. Okay. Want to talk offense a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, there was actually a lot of positives in this game.
Oh yeah, for sure. No, we'll get to AJ Brown in a little bit. He left the game early. Where do we start offensively? We start with Saquon.
Sure.
He was just so good. What noise came out of you when he made that hurdle?
Yeah, I'm not sure I made a noise, but I just wanted to see a replay because I couldn't believe I've never seen a person do that.
It was unbelievable.
It was.
It was one of the most incredible plays I've ever seen on a football field. I couldn't stop watching it.
Yeah. I do think he puts himself at undue risk sometimes with that.
Probably true.
And I think he got drilled in the back at the end of that play. You always worry when a guy's airborne
and backwards. But
yeah. Look, he had 30 touches today, and you worry about his long term. It's a lot. It's a lot. So far, he showed he can handle it, but it was insane. It was just insane to even think about doing that.
I still don't understand how that happens. The noise that came out of me involuntarily.
Oh no!
You're watching. You go, who?
What was it?
Who? I still don't understand how he did it.
You just did that twice. Yeah, I don't either. I wish I could show highlights, but we're not allowed.
He ended up with 159 rushing yards, 40 receiving yards, 2 touchdowns.
$199.
There were some ups and downs for him though. Even in a game with 199 yards from scrimmage, he had the play on 2nd down where he goes down. He had the fumble, which we think shouldn't have been a fumble, but it was. Then he had the drop in the red zone.
Yeah. Yeah. And he's up and down in the passing game, and we've seen that.
He was up with that touchdown catch over the shoulder.
It was a really tough catch, and I'm glad they were using him more in the passing game. I think he had 3 for 40. But yeah, when you think about like the drop against Atlanta, and then it was a passing play when he used poor judgment going to the sticks, going out of bounds short of the sticks against Cleveland. He missed that blitz pickup. Just things in the passing game you'd like to see him do better, but it's kind of hard to be critical when the guy had 200 yards.
He was unreal.
He almost outgained the Jaguars entire team. You know what I love about Saquon is like late in games, he's so good. Like on like his 26th carry, he's going for like 11 yards. I mean,
and in situations where teams know they're running it.
Yeah. Yeah. And
so the Eagles get the ball with 3:57 left at their own 33. Saquon for 8, Saquon for 15, Saquon for 2, Saquon for 9. He goes down and then they kick the field. But like everyone in the stadium,
I think that lane false start was right before that.
Exactly. But everyone in the stadium knew he was getting the football and no one could stop him.
Yeah.
And that's obviously a lot of the offensive line as well. But the things he does specifically, even if he hadn't hurdled that guy on that play, it was still an incredible play because he had the spin move before it.
Right. He did. He runs so violently, and there's also a measure of finesse in his game. It's a really tough combination to stop. And a lot of people were making a big deal about, Shady was getting honored today. And I mean, Saquon's going to blow. I don't know if he'll be here as long as Shady. Who knows? Shady got here as a rookie. Saquon got here in year 7, right?
7, yeah.
So he probably won't be able to break his career marks, but I mean, he's having the best year any Eagles running backs ever had. He's got 925 yards already. Yeah, more than half a season. He's over 1,000 scrimmage yards. He's got like 1070 in 9 games. I mean, you look at it as like week by week. I mean, the Browns are the only team that kept him under 100 scrimmage yards. That's because Jim Schwartz had like 12 people in the box on every play. He's so much better than I thought, or than I expected. And there was reason for that. I mean, his career's been uneven the last few years. And it was hard to know how much of that was him and how much of it was the atmosphere around him, the players around him, the coaches, just being a giant.
I thought he'd be really good.
You did.
And I didn't think he'd be this, like,
yeah.
I thought that I wasn't trying to pat myself on the back because I thought he'd be really good. I didn't think he'd be this. I mean, this is unreal. It's
funny because like after about 3 weeks of training camp, I was like, all right, yeah, he's better than DeAndre Swift. Like he's really, really special. Just got to keep him healthy. 30 touches is a lot.
He said physically feels pretty good. He got a little banged up.
His back, it looked like he was stretching.
I couldn't really tell. He came out at one point.
Yeah.
I took a hard hit and he came off the field.
Yeah. You'd like to see Gainwell, a little more production out of Gainwell so they can feel confident putting him in there in these games where they're going to run 40 times.
He had 5 for 9 today.
Yeah. He just wasn't there. You'd like to see, maybe give Shipley a shot, or Tyrion Davis-Price.
Not on the roster, but
you got a game day call up, see what he's got. But yeah, I mean, it's not sustainable to give a guy 30 touches. That's why you hope like 22-0 turns into like 36-0. You can get him out of there and give Shipley some run, but it wasn't meant to be. Maybe they can blow out the Cowboys.
So we talked about the Devontae Smith incredible play. We talked about the Saquon Barkley incredible play. How about Jahan Dotson?
I knew that's where you were going. And you mentioned like AJ doesn't come out for the second half. He comes out and he goes back in. They needed production from somebody, and that was such a circus play. Showed great focus to keep his eye on the ball. And first I thought he had it, then I thought he was going to get intercepted, then I thought he had it again.
It's his only target in 2 games. Like, to be that cold and to make that play is really hard.
Yeah. And he had more yards on that play than all year.
All year, yeah.
36, it was close, 36 to 35. I give that guy a lot of credit. You talked to him last week. He's always stayed positive. He's never blamed anybody. He's never made excuses. He just kind of puts his head down and keeps working. He knows the production hasn't been there. Smart guy. 35 yards in 7 games is embarrassing.
And on that play, Tyson Campbell on who's their better corner.
He did, yeah. And he had good coverage. It was a great effort, a great play, and I think maybe it'll take some of the pressure off him to finally make a play, and maybe he can kind of get incorporated in the offense a little more. Shows that Jalen trusts him enough. I think that'll help when you come down with that pass. It was an incredible play when they really needed one.
Yeah, I agree. That was a big time play.
Yeah.
And then we talked about Devontae before we talked about the offense, but man, in that moment, without AJ Brown, offense just needs to put something together for him to come through like that. That's the beauty of having 2 of those guys.
Yeah.
It's just such a luxury.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. Devontae said after the game that when he's always trying to make a big play, but when AJ's out, he's like hyper focused on, I've got to do something. He's so good. And I know everyone says he's good enough to be a starter anywhere. I mean, he really is. I mean, he's that talented. I just think, he's never going to have like a 1,500-yard season just because he's never going to get enough opportunities. But he's good enough to be a Pro Bowl receiver. If WR2 was, Quez Watkins, then Devontae would have 1,400 yards.
Oh, I believe that. Yeah. And he's having a pretty good season. There are some weird games where he doesn't. And the kind of crazy thing about today is that he didn't have his first target until the 117 mark of the second quarter.
Yeah. Is that one over the middle for a first down?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then after that, man, he was involved.
Yeah. Really good player.
Other stuff on offense?
Jalen, a little bit.
Yeah, sure. I thought he had a fine game.
Just kind of all these 4 games have been kind of similar where hasn't been asked to do too much. Hasn't thrown through 24 times, which is still pretty low in modern NFL standards. only 6 incomplete passes.
18 for 22, 230 yards, 2 touchdowns, a passer rating of 132.3. And then big on the ground in this game.
Really good as a runner, looked fast, looked decisive. And being decisive is just as important as a runner, as a passer. One quick thing on that passer rating, he's been at 119 or higher all 4 games. You probably looked this up. He's the first Eagles quarterback ever to do that in 4 straight games. Only he and Carson have done it 3 straight games. So he's having a really efficient, productive stretch, throwing the deep ball really well. He's being careful with the ball. He's just not forcing things. He really just seems calmer in the pocket. I think his footwork's been really good. Like, I think that's why he's been so accurate. Like, you never see him like shuffling his feet as he stands in the pocket or moving around. When he's confident in the pocket, he's standing there, he's standing tall, and he's firing it really accurately. I mean, he's been, he's at 70% over a 4-game stretch with no picks and getting the ball downfield, big plays. It's a really dangerous combination of things. And, he hasn't had one of these, like you see guys throw for 5 touchdowns and 400 yards. He hasn't had a game like that, but he hasn't needed to. I think he's doing exactly what the offense requires.
Yeah. I want to mention he had, 13 carries for 67 yards and the touchdown. He had a really nice game, and he nearly threw an interception in the third quarter. It was ruled an interception.
It was pretty clear.
I don't know how they missed it on the field, honestly.
Terrible. Yeah, because they're bad refs.
Yeah, it wasn't a great.
I'm going to give out all their names and their home phone numbers. Not really, but I would if I could.
But aside from that throw, he's had, I think, 2 turnover-worthy plays in the last 2 weeks.
Was that one turnover-worthy? Probably.
I think it probably was.
Yeah, we'll see.
That's not my stat to keep, but I think it looked like it to me.
Mark Butterworth, my ass.
Oh, geez.
Sorry.
Look at you.
Guy pisses me off. Anyway.
Man, that's a lot.
I mean, his name is a bottle of syrup.
Okay. Yeah, so looking at offense, anything else you wanted to hit on? Grant Calcaterra had another big game, 5 catches for 30 yards, moved the sticks a couple times.
And it's just so important to have another guy that Jalen trusts. And I mean, the big plays weren't there today, but just to catch 5 balls. But he's tough. He's a tough physical guy. I think there's a reputation that like he was the finesse guy and Stoll was the tough physical guy because he's the blocker. But Grant Calcaterra puts his head down and fights for extra yards. He's a tough dude.
Yeah. I thought they picked some weird moments to try to get Ben Sumeren and Anais Smith involved.
Yeah.
They get that big forced fumble on the punt. They get back on the field, and their first play is to throw at the Ben Sumeren. I thought that was kind of a weird moment. And then later on, they threw a pass to Anais Smith in motion for 0 yards. It was the kid's first touch in the NFL.
Yeah.
Kind of a weird moment for that.
Yeah. I think the first play of the game might have been a pass to Ben Sumeren, right?
Oh, well, no. No, the first play of the game was an overthrow to A.J. Brown in the middle of the field.
Oh, okay. I don't know.
It was the first play after they got the ball back.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah. I just got a little brain dead there. Yeah. It was a weird game in a lot of ways offensively, but they still had like 470 yards and should have scored about 38 points.
They should have. I thought, we talked about Jalen. I thought he had a really nice day.
Yeah.
Okay. Want to take a break and we'll get to defensive special teams on the other side.
Yes. You deserve a car that thrills you, a car that puts goosebumps on your goosebumps. At Nissan, we got everything from turbocharged SUVs to 100% electric vehicles that'll make your heart beat faster. Experience the thrill for yourself and shop your local Nissan store at nissanusa.com today.
Celebrity cook Steve Martorano brings his Italian-American cooking back home to Philly. Enjoy Martorano's Prime at Rivers Casino and Steve's famous meatballs with Sunday gravy, prime steaks, and more. Make reservations at Martorano's Prime on Open Table. All right, we're back, Reuben. Let's talk some defense. We talked about Nakobe Dean already, but let's give him one more pat on the back. That was a heck of a play.
Yeah, and people talk about like his coverage. I mean, it was like a liability early in the year. I mean, he was all over that play. Kid's getting better. And it's really encouraging to see. I don't know the last time, like Super Bowl year, they had really good linebacker play, I thought, but these two guys are playing a really high level.
Yeah, I thought Zach Baum was all over the field.
He was incredible. Got to sign him. Got to get him.
Yeah, I think that's got to be. If you had to sign just one of him or Mekhi Becton,
oh yeah, it would be Baum.
It'd be Baum at this point.
Sure. I mean, because you have Steen, you don't have another guy. I mean, and Josh Sweat's another one you might want to think about signing. We'll talk about him later, but
no, let's talk about him right now.
Let's talk about him now.
Yeah, he's playing well. 2 sacks in this game, 5 tackles, 3 quarterback hits, and a pass breakup. Another big game for Sweaty. Yeah,
his last 5 games, he's got 5 sacks, something like 8 tackles for loss, a bunch of quarterback hits. He's playing really well. This is the Josh Sweat that we saw in 21 and 22. And I don't know what happened. I don't know how a guy this talented goes 12 games without a sack, but he did. But right now, I mean, he's playing a really high level and just high effort. And he was funny after the game. Did you see him? Were we over there when he was talking about Saquon's backwards hurdle?
No.
It was funny. He said, I was watching that, and for a moment, I was like, I became a fan. I was like, wow, that's incredible. And then I just like snapped back. I got a game to play. He's funny, but yeah. And I mean, Nolan Smith didn't have a sack today, but I think he's kind of playing better.
And Nolan was out there a ton today.
Because Huff, yeah.
Over Huff. And we found out apparently Huff had some kind of hand injury that limited him. The PFF, like running snap count totals, had him with just 6 snaps in this game. So, yeah, and honestly, his first snap, he got pressure.
Yeah. Yeah, interesting.
But curious to see where that goes.
Yeah. Well, a lot of guys banged up. We'll get to those. But Sweat's been really solid. Who would you say is their defensive MVP through 9 games? 8 games.
I don't know if they have one.
You had to vote for somebody.
If I had to vote for somebody, it might be Zach Baum.
Might be Cooper DeJean. Even though he's only played.
Can't be, but I understand what you're saying.
He's only played half the season, but he's kind of, it all turned around when he started playing.
Yeah. And another 4th down stop.
Yeah, another 4th down stop. Could have been a penalty. Probably should have been a penalty, but Mrs. Butterworth, whatever the ref's name is, Avonte Maddox, that was not a penalty. That should not have been DPI. They
went right after him, didn't they?
Yeah, they did. And you knew that was going to happen. I thought that was really ticky-tack, but
well, I thought the contact was legit. I'd question whether or not it was catchable.
Yeah, I don't think the contact affected anything. I thought it was incidental. Yeah, it wasn't catchable. But yeah, I think Baum is a solid pick. You can make a case for Sweat. You can make a case for Cooper, really.
I thought Jalen Carter had a nice game.
Yeah, he did. Didn't have the big stats, but he was really solid. So I think I might go Sweaty or Baum.
Yeah.
Yeah. Probably go Baum. He's in the middle of everything.
Yeah, I mean, he's all over the field. It's like if you were to just watch them and not know who any of these players were, you'd be like, who's that 53 and why is he in every single play?
Yeah. Yeah, it's true. And again, I can't say enough that this is a kid playing a new position. He was our oldest starter today. By the way, the first time in Eagles history, they started 11 guys on defense who are all 27 or younger.
You've been waiting on this stat with Slay being out.
I was like hoping he got hurt, but I had it in my back pocket. But that says a lot. And Baum's our oldest starter, and I think Sweat's second. And then CJ. I mean, it's a really young group.
I thought Isaiah Rodgers held up fine.
He was fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Gave up 1 play, I think.
Yeah.
Quinyon gave up a play too. He slipped
early. Yeah. Did he slip on that?
Yeah. I like that. Did I tell you that Isaiah calls himself Little Play Zay?
No.
Yeah. Him and Big Play Slay.
Yeah. I got the reference.
Little Play Zay.
Yeah. I'm not sure I love that.
Yeah.
It's just Isaiah. Just call him Isaiah.
He did show up today wearing a Slay jersey, which I thought was pretty cool.
Oh, really?
Like he arrived to the stadium in a
Slay
jersey.
I thought Slay was playing when I saw that. Thought it was Slay. All right. What else from the defense? They're just playing solid team defense. I scribbled this down. Do I have my notebook here? So the last 4 games, see if I total this up. Last 4 games against the Browns, Giants, Bengals, and Jacksonville, they've allowed 3.6 rushing yards per carry and just 74 rushing yards per game. They've only allowed 140 passing yards per game. They only gave them 100. They only gave up 215 yards today. It seemed like more because Jacksonville had a couple late drives, but before that, they hadn't done anything.
At halftime, I think they had 31 yards.
They did. They've held 4 straight opponents to 280 or fewer yards. It's only the second time in the last 30 years that's happened. And points. You only count points against the defense, not return touchdowns. They've given up 45 points in 4 games. That's 11 points a game. That's really good stuff. And you just compare it to where this defense was last year. And again, I think Howie deserves a ton of credit for reshaping the defense into a young, from one of the oldest defenses in the league to one of the youngest. And some of that was just young guys becoming starters, but drafting the rookies and re-signing CJ. CJ didn't have a great game, but it's such a young group. And I mean, to hold 4 straight teams to 9, 3, 17, and 16 points that doesn't happen a lot.
Yeah.
It's really good stuff.
And you look at the stat lines here. I mean, Travis Etienne had 3 for 24. Tank Bigsby had 8 for 22 in the run game. Trevor Lawrence, 16 for 31, 169 yards, 2 picks, passer rating of 40.9. Evan Ingram had an okay game, 5 for 45, but that was on 10 targets.
Yeah, 3 drops.
Yeah. And then Brian Thomas, who's an excellent rookie, 2 for 22.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, their coverage is they don't give quarterbacks a lot of easy throws. And we saw that. We've seen that over the last 4 games. Mm-hmm. They just, guys just don't get those easy throws. Now, Lawrence had a couple at the end. They got a little leaky there. I think they kind of thought the game was over. And there's some guys on this defense that hadn't been in that position before, and I think it was a little wake-up call. They've got to learn from it. But overall, you can't argue with 215 yards. I really like what I see from this defense. They're physical and they're sound. They're almost always in the right place. There's no weak link. There's just no guy out there who you're like, well, he might kill him, but the other guys they're just really solid.
Yeah. I think that's all I have on defense.
Okay.
Special teams.
Great play by Sidney Brown.
What a play. Yeah.
And by Keeley to stay in bounds and get that ball secure. Like, it's so easy to, like, he's rolling on the ground. It's so easy to not really secure it, while you're sliding out of bounds. And they'll call that every time if you don't have possession. He had possession. That was a huge play early, set the tone. Yeah,
and it was after the offense sputtered again early on.
Yeah.
It helped them get some first quarter points.
Yeah, first time since Julio. The last first quarter points were scored by Julio Jones.
Without Sydney, that probably doesn't happen.
Yeah. It was, and you're seeing what, I don't know when he'll be on the field as a safety. I
don't know either, but
that's the kind of player he's going to be.
I'll find a way to get him on the field.
Yeah. I mean, he's just a heat-seeking missile out there. I love the way he plays.
Hair on fire, man.
Yeah.
He played well. I thought Keeley had a nice special teams game.
Yeah.
At one point, he was the guy getting doubled, and he ran through it. Will Shipley had a nice special teams tackle. He did. Yeah. I mean, they were 157-yard field goal away from having like a perfect special teams game.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, it was good stuff.
Even Kenny Gainwell had that kick return and got it past the 30.
Yeah, not real far past. But...
got it to the 33. And it kills some time off the clock.
That's true.
Yeah, it was a good play.
It was.
And Will Shipley looked really surprised when he turned around and saw Gainwell taking it out.
Yes, he did. I'm not sure that was supposed to go that way for those extra 3 yards. Now, it's a risky play because it's easier to lose yards than gain them there.
But he gains well.
That's you. That was all a setup, wasn't it?
No comment.
All right. It's terrible.
How you feeling about this team? 6-2 wasn't the prettiest win, but they head to Dallas next week, maybe without Dak Prescott.
Yeah.
He got hurt today, if anyone missed that. Hamstring injury, had to leave the game early. Cooper Rush came in. They lost
Yeah.
to the Falcons.
Cooper Rush might be better than Dak right now.
I don't think that's true.
No. Eagles have lost 6 straight down in North Texas. 4 of them by blowouts. I think it's a step they have to take, is winning down there. And it's obviously a bad. They've lost 3 in a row. They got a bunch of injuries. I don't know how long that coach is going to be there. I mean, Jerry doesn't like losing, and I don't think Jerry would hesitate to make a change. But
by Jerry, do you mean Jar?
Jerry Jones.
Jar,
sure. But I just think it's the next step for this team is to go down there. It's been a horror show for them.
Eagles are 6.5-point favorites.
The last time they went, it's on the road
against
a team that's beat them 6 straight times. And look, it's been no bargain up here either. I mean, I think Nick's 2-4 against Dallas. One of them was one of those meaningless deals. But even Doug had a tough time. Other than that's the last time they won down there is 2017. Fumble return touchdown by Nigel Bradham, one of your favorites. It's been a long time. That was 7 years ago. So it's a game they should win. It's a game that, and look, that whole thing about mental block. I mean, these guys aren't 0-6 down there. A couple of them, like 3 of them. but yeah, it's a game they got to win, and I think they will. They're playing really well, and like the first half of the Tampa game, the second half of this game, but I just think they're still getting used to new coaches. They're still getting used to each other. They're still a young team and a new team, and I think overall they're trending the right way. And to be able to play like this sloppy and have this many issues and still win is big. They wouldn't have won this game at the end of last year.
Yeah, you're probably right. Injuries.
Yeah.
AJ Brown, we don't know. It was a knee injury. It was kind of weird. He came out for the second half and then went back in. Nick, of course, didn't know anything after the game, but that's obviously a big injury to monitor. We've seen them with and without him this year. There's a big difference. So we'll monitor that one this week. Ben Van Sumeren left with a concussion. Saw him in the locker room. He was telling people he was fine. Obviously, he's not fine. He has a concussion, but it didn't seem like he was super light sensitive or anything like that. So we'll see about his availability going forward. That was all the major injuries. Fred Johnson got a little banged up on a kind of a dirty play. Yeah, he was mad, and he had a right to be mad. But also, I kind of get it. If I'm a 200-pound safety and I got to get Fred Johnson to the ground, I'm probably going low too.
Yeah. He got a penalty for it.
He got a penalty and tricked them into going for a 2-point conversion.
If it wasn't for that penalty, then they kicked the extra point.
Yeah, and Nick's off the hook a little bit. But he came back in. He was fine. Saquon came back in. He looked fine. I wouldn't be surprised to see him get a rest day on Wednesday.
Maybe Thursday, too.
Yeah. He might need to stop practicing for a while.
Saquon just kept going over the sideline and they were working on his neck and his back. And I think, he was stretching out his hammies. He was on the bike. I mean, I'm like, oh, he's going to take the next year. And then he would just come back out and get 9 yards on the next carry. I mean, the guy's Superman.
Last thing, Shady got inducted into the Eagles Hall of Fame. Cool moment for him.
Yeah.
I didn't get a chance to see him today.
I was finishing my hit with Ashland, and all of a sudden we're on the field before the game, and all of a sudden I feel that some guy behind me put his arms around me, giving me a big bear hug. And I figured it was BG because he'll do that now and then. Yeah. I turn around and it's Shady.
Yeah.
And it was really cool. And that was the extent of my my time with Shady. But I always got a kick out of him. One of my favorite guys, one of my favorite players. It was good to see him. I think he's a Hall of Famer. I really do. I think it might take a while, but I think there's not a lot of guys putting up big rushing numbers these days. Shelf life is short for running backs. He did it over a 10-year period. And what I look for from a Hall of Famer is, were you the best in the league at what you did for like 5 years or more? And he was for 10 years. He had the most rushing yards and scrimmage yards in that decade from 2010 to 2019 by like 1,700.
Of his era, you have like Adrian Peterson.
But he missed a lot of time during that span. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But he's a lock.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And he had a longer, better career.
Yeah. Like Frank Gore, probably not as good like peak-wise, but longevity and another
Yeah.
former Eagle, so it's nice that he'll get in.
I think that the two things that I really like that I think work in Shady's favor are, he had over 500 catches. He's one of only 3 running backs in history with 11,000 rushing yards, 500 catches, and a 4.5 average. And the other two are Marshall Faulk and LT. It's pretty good company. This is why sports writers shouldn't vote on these things. A lot of sports writers don't like them. He didn't give him an interview or something, and I don't think that should be a factor, but it is. But I think he will eventually get in.
All right, that's all I have.
Okay.
Nice flight by the Eagle today
Oh yeah.
during the anthem. A saxophone anthem.
Oh,
Always
really?
love a saxophone anthem.
Really?
He held the penultimate note so long that the fireworks went off that are supposed to be at the end of the
penultimate or the last note?
penultimate. He held the second to last note really long, so long that the fireworks went off before he was done the song, which was kind of funny.
Who do you know his name?
I
know you wrote it down.
Well, it was part of the.
I'm kind of friends with the whole Philadelphia woodwind community.
I don't doubt that, actually.
It doesn't matter. Don't worry about it.
Can't seem to find it. Oh wait, I'm so close to getting his name that I'm going to get it for you.
This is really
Michael
quality.
Phillips.
Michael Phelps.
Phillips.
Oh, Michael Phelps.
Yeah, Michael Phelps probably could have held that note too. Good lung capacity.
Well, there's that note at the end of put your Michael Phelps on. Get your Michael Phelps on. That Sean Andrews would hold, a long time.
All right, I think we're sufficiently off the rails enough to tell you if you. Oh, real quick, if you have a question for us, we'll get to them on the next podcast. It's eagleeye@nbcuni.com. We have the QR code. I'll leave it up there for another few seconds. You can scan that QR code, send in your question like that if you're watching on YouTube. And also, if you enjoy the Eagle Eye podcast, please rate and subscribe wherever you get your pods. If you're watching on YouTube, please click the like button and subscribe there as well. Any final words?
No. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching.
All right. We'll be back with you guys on Tuesday. For Reuben, I'm Dave. This has been Eagle Eye, presented by Nissan.